What's up, everyone? We are back with some fresh Gundam Planet content. If you've been with us for a little while, you may remember our original series of Builders Tips videos that we did going on almost 10 years ago. They were some of our most viewed, most requested videos, and we took a lot of pride in them at the time. But looking back at them now, they're not quite up to our current modern production standards because they look like they were filmed in a basement that had water in the walls, or maybe some sort of shed. And so we wanted to go back and revisit those and redo them with all of our modern equipment and all of the new model kits that have come out since then, and like the new materials that we've had. So we're starting GP Builders Tips Reloaded, and we're going to start with our favorite, our most requested, and our most popular video, decals. So we're going to get right to it. So for starters, you have three types of decal in the general sense. You have water decals, you have dry transfer decals, and you have stickers, and each have their own process. Some kits come with all three of these. Some kits only come with one or two. But here's how you can distinguish between all of them right out of the box. With stickers or seals, you're going to be able to clearly see the outline of the stickers themselves. There is a perforation around each one, and if you want to, you would be able to just stick a knife under there, stick tweezers under there, pull it off, put it back on very easily because there is just adhesive under there. So you can see corner comes up, corner goes back down. It's just a sticker. Very easy. With dry transfer, you're going to see that it's on this interesting kind of like wavy hard plastic that is a little bit thicker than a normal piece of paper, and it has this sheet behind it to protect the markings themselves from getting scratched off in the box during transit. These are dry transfers, and if you're not using them, you want to make sure that this paper stays behind here so that the decal doesn't get damaged. So that's dry transfers. And then the last type is water transfer, which will always come sealed in their own plastic and not have any visible separation between the sheet and decal itself. And we're going to go into exactly why that is later. And now, of course, you don't actually have to use every single decal provided with a model kit, especially like this. Do you really want to do all these? But we're going to go through this video and help you decide which ones you want to do and which processes you personally will enjoy the most. So we're going to go through each one from least complicated to most complicated in order for you. Alright, so for marking stickers, which they sometimes call Tetron seals, the process is no different from a traditional foil sticker. Like if you've ever had to put on the little lens camera there, or eye stickers, it's the exact same process. All you need for the stickers, it depends on your preference. You can either use the end of a hobby knife, which is how I prefer, or you can just use any pair of sharp precision tweezers to pull the stickers off. So all you have to do for these, you can either, freewheel it and just guess, or you go to the marking guide in the back of the manual, and it's all number coded. It tells you where to put everything, and you just pick the decal you want. So I'm gonna go with this little EFSF logo here. So it tells me that's sticker number 3. So you just go here. This is how I do it. I like holding the knife like a pencil, right up off the corner. I hold it between my thumbs so that it sticks to the knife nicely. Obviously the camera can't focus on this very clear Tetron seal. But then you just check in the guide where you want to put it. Line it up. And press it down. I usually just press it down once with my thumb. You might see a couple air bubbles on there. You can flatten it out with either your thumb, a paper towel, or if you have any of these Tamiya cotton swabs, you can go over it real nice to get rid of any excess air in there. And you can see that right fresh on there. Now when it hits the light, you can very clearly see that it is a transparent sticker, which this is the drawback of this kind of sticker. So you'll see why the other decals are preferable as we go through those. Alright, so moving on to dry transfer decals, these do get a little bit more complicated, especially if the marking is larger or if it's curved surface, which for those of you who built the Cubily Mark II, that shoulder decal is the worst of both worlds. But it looks great, but that thing's a nightmare. Anyway, this you need a couple more materials this time. There's masking tape to hold the decal in place. We love Tamiya masking tape here. You're going to need the modeler's knife to cut the decal out this time. It does not come off the sheet itself. And just tweezers to help you place it, and you definitely need a cutting mat. so that you can cut the decal off easily. So once again, select your decal. The thing is, some of these dry transfer sheets, they actually don't have where they're supposed to go in the marking guide. This text actually just tells you kind of decide whatever you want to do. So for the purpose of this demonstration, I will still be picking one here. I'm going to do the Anaheim Electronics logo on the back of the shoulder. I've already taken the shoulder that I'm going to do for easier application. So you don't need to leave the paper behind it, but it is smart because if you press down on this too hard, especially if it's a humid day, and you press it to the cutting mat, pieces of the decal could start to come off, and you don't want that to happen. So very carefully, not cutting towards yourself like I was just about to do. You're going to do this. You're going to just cut. Don't cut the decal itself. And it doesn't need to be perfect. You don't need to be right up against the decal. And you see I just had to like kind of rip the corner off because I didn't do a great job there. So once you have this, you're going to make sure that it's still the same exact way with the decal facing the surface. And you can kind of just put it where you think you want it. And this part isn't super important because obviously, like, see how it's moving around and nothing's happening? This is where dry transfer decals are, in my opinion, the most annoying. Because if you're a brave soul, you can right now just hold it down yourself and kind of hope and like scratch against it. But don't do that. That's a bad idea. So the responsible way is you now take some masking tape and you hold the decal in place. Firmly grasp it. So you're holding the decal in place. You press it down on the spot of the kit, and then you masking tape it down, preferably on 2 points. If it's a huge one, like I mentioned that Cubely decal, I did that with like duct tape. I like put a whole roll around it because I didn't want to screw it up. So once it is like nailed down there, you're all set. So now you take any like round hard surface. You can use a coin, like a nickel. Don't use a quarter because those have those scratchy things. You can use this. You can use the round end of like a Bandai part separator. Anything that is going to be, you know, solid but won't scratch. Use that. So we're just going to use the end of these tweezers, and you just kind of do this, and you just literally scratch the decal off enough that you're transferring the marking from the backing. And you can kind of see, like, as you're going, you'll see the part where the decal gets either darker or lighter because it has transferred off the plastic. So you just want to make sure that it's fully transferred. And so when you think you're done, you might not be done yet. So what I always do is I try and take off one side first so that you're not moving the entire placement. So I'll carefully lift up one side of the masking tape and kind of like make sure, yep. So as I'm pulling it off, you can see that the decal is not coming up with the sheet anymore. So I know it's been transferred. And then you remove it. And there you are. So you can see that this looks much better than the Tetron seal because you can't see any of the clear film. It is actually just the marking itself. So the finished product on these is always going to be superior. But as you can tell, the process is much more annoying. So this is a successful dry transfer, and you can use that method for anything. If you have smaller decals, you could honestly probably just throw masking tape over the entire decal itself, scratch off, peel it off, you'll probably be fine once you get the hang of it. But it is always good to check and make sure that there is nothing of the decal still left on the sheet itself before you move on. So that's dry transfer decals, and now we'll go on to the main event. So the decal type that intimidates builders the most, especially when getting started, is water transfer decals, or wet transfer, or water slide, whatever you call it. This process does seem like it's the most complicated, but we like it the most because it is the easiest to correct errors while you're working. Like, you saw what a nightmare it was with dry transfers. If you screw up halfway through, good luck lining that up again. Anyway, there's a couple more things you need for this method. There is the same as dry transfers, just the knife, the tweezer, the cutting mat, because you do need to cut these out yourself. But you also need a small vessel with any kind of water, preferably shallow. Like, you don't want to use like a glass because then the decals could fall to the bottom. But if you're real fancy, there's something called a decal tray that's like layered, and you put water underneath and this stuff. Yeah, I don't do that. You just anything shallow to put water in, and then you can have mark setter and mark softer. These come in handy for different reasons. This has it as adhesive. This just softens the decal. There's also something called Tamiya mark fit. It's essentially the same thing as Mr. Mark Setter. So once you have all these, your workstation is ready. I mentioned these. These aren't strictly necessary. However, Mark Setter is great if you're not going to be top coating the model kit, because this has adhesive in it. So it seals the decal down and prevents it from peeling up as it dries out. If you're going to be top coating the model kit, you don't need this because the top coat provides that service. But this is very helpful to have on hand, because if you top coat a model kit and then if it's on display for a while, if it's in humidity, if you move and some of the decals start to peel, you just take this. It has a little brush applicator on the top, and you can just seal it back down, and then the decal is good to go again. So I do always recommend having Mark Setter on hand if this is something you do frequently, even if you don't necessarily need it to put it on. So the process itself is the same as the start of dry transfers. For the sake of this illustration, we're going to pick a very clear decal. It's very easy to see. We'll go with number 18. It's this nice circle. We're going to do the same thing. This, honestly, you can be even crazier than the dry transfers with. You can just like leave a million inches of the sheet on either side. Just make sure to cut all the way through. This knife is, I would recommend a sharper knife than I am using, because this blade is a little flimsy and you want to be able to work with a little more precision when you're cutting these. Could also use scissors, but like, do you really want to be navigating the middle of this sheet with scissors? Probably not. So you have this. I would recommend, don't, like, as you get to the smaller ones and you get to the decal themselves, don't pick up with your fingers, because you could, you know, leave oil from your hands on it. So all you do, you have it here, and then you just boop, and then you just let it kind of chill out there. Now, it does depend on the manufacturer and the quality of the decal, how long you can set it like this. I usually leave it for like 10 seconds, then I pull it out. If you're doing a bunch of decals at once, like when I get real tired of waiting, I'll cut off like 7 and throw them all in there and then take them all out. And then I just like leave it resting on the cutting mat. And you can see that the water is like, it's soaking the backing, and you'll be able to see the decal itself start to come off. And like, you can kind of be like, oh, is it ready yet? No, it's not ready yet. It'll start like being very easy to move around once it's ready to be taken off the backing. So just kind of waiting for that. Why is this taking so long? Why is this taking so long? So, as I mentioned, this kind of varies with different manufacturers, and this one's taking a little bit long. This needs a little bit more help to come off the sheet than I was expecting. I'm used to Bandai and G rework, and you know, we had to dunk this one again. So sometimes you'll have to do that, and it's not the end of the world. Like, that's, again, we mentioned that this is like the easiest to correct issues with, and it's the method with kind of the most leeway for weird nonsense happening. So look at that. So it just needed another dunk. So you can see it's just starting to move, and it just comes off the sheet. You can see it's half on, half off right there. So the one thing I will say, a lot of people like really sharp tweezers. I prefer the angled ones or ones with dull ends. The one time I used the God Hand tweezers, which are unbelievably sharp. Like, I drew blood on myself once because I dropped them and tried to catch them, and they just stab you in the hand. I don't like using those for this because it can puncture the tweezer. Like, if you go to pick it up and you just whoop right through. So then I have it. I have the decal, and it see how like clear it is. So you don't have that same fog as the Tetron seal. So then you just bam. This is where the great part about water decals comes in. Like, if you screwed up and like, oh no, it's not where I want it, you just move it. Like, it goes wherever you want it. So I like it right here. This is where it's gonna stay. And so you take the cotton swab and you roll it. Like, we like Tamiya cotton swabs a lot because you'll notice there's no fuzz on it. And like if you use store-bought like Q-tips or something, there's so much fuzz that can get stuck to these. So you roll it till it's dry. And now that's the end of your process if you're going to be top coating. But let's say you're not top coating. You actually have a couple choices for this. Some people prefer to pre-treat the plastic with Mark Setter by putting on, like brushing on where you're going to put it and then placing the decal over it. I, for some reason, just like doing it afterwards. So you just take this, a little brush, make sure it's not too saturated, and then just brush over. And that adhesive will seal the decal down so that it won't peel off even after the water's dry, even after the decal is done. So that is really the end of the process, and then you just go through and do all of them. And obviously if you want to do this entire sheet, power to you. I will not be doing that, but these, like, a lot of times water decals are for the really nice, like, big markings, and you can have fun with it and not freak out too much if you're going to make mistakes, because like I showed, you can just move it around. If you get air bubbles, all you have to do, again, just take one of these cotton swabs, just roll over it, and you can see just how clean that is. Like, fantastic clean markings. And the best part of these is, while a lot of model kits do come with them, once you're good at this, like, the world really opens up in terms of what your options are, because G-Rework, like, obviously I don't want to open these, but G-Rework makes water decals for like hundreds and hundreds of mobile suits. So you could do the, like, anything that they've made, throw the markings on there even if it doesn't come with them. Also, a lot of the 30-minute sisters and Figure Eye Standard and like Megami Device Girls, they come with these eye decals, so you would be able to choose the facial expression. They sell blank faceplates that you can customize. So the way that you can just make, even if it's a straight build, even if you're not painting, the way that you can bring new life into those builds just because you are confident doing water slide decals, it's so worth learning. So highly recommend that. The last thing that I didn't really get a chance to demonstrate here is Mark Softer, which this is for if you're going to be decaling. Like, let's say there's a decal that goes over this line here. You might see an air bubble underneath because the decal is technically lying flat over a panel line or something like that. Mark Softer just melds the decal down so it adheres to the surface. It does make the decal more brittle, but it makes it adhere to curved or irregular surfaces. So where I used Mark Setter in my example, all you would do is put Mark Softer over the decal and it would just melt it down into the surface. So that's what this is for, in the case that you would need it in the course of your travels. All right, so now we've covered it all. You are equipped to handle literally any type of decal that comes out of a model kit box that you purchase. But of course, I know that there's a possibility you have questions that we didn't answer in this video. Please feel free to leave us a comment down below or tag us on any social media, and we'll do our best to address any of your questions. And until we decide to do GP Builders Tips Reloaded in 10 years, we'll see you for the next video.